As a man, what are some of the most ridiculous double standards you've had to deal with? For more infotainment, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thanks for watching. Childcare. I was 17, gal had kid on her lap. Other kid climbed onto my lap. Was shamed by my co-worker because I have a so I can't have a kid on my lap because obviously I'll get a raging and the kid or something. Every guy is a closet pedo evidently. Edit, second silver today a record. Thank you. Edit, 3 silvers new record. Thank you. Edit, frothing at the mouth at all these awards. OMG, I actually went through this too. About 12 years ago I hired a woman shortly before Halloween. She had just moved to town, has a couple of kids, and didn't know anyone. I invited her and her kids to go trick-or-treating with my wife and I and our kids. Our kids are about the same age. She and her kids came over to our house and her daughter took an immediate liking to me. She was 8 years old but mentally challenged and was more in line of a 4-year-old. While I was sitting on the couch, she jumped up onto the couch and sat down on my lap, cuddling up to me like I was a teddy bear. It was very odd for me, to say the least, but okay, and I held her as she laid her head down on my chest. My brother-in-law immediately started making a joke about me getting a bone with this kid in my lap. Normally it would have been funny to me, but it was probably the first time he made a bad joke and it made me uncomfortable. Her mom explained that that's how her daughter expressed that she is completely comfortable with someone, and thought it was the sweetest thing she'd ever seen. Thinking back, it was a cool moment, that a small child decided after only knowing me for barely an hour felt that comfortable with me. She is, a sweetheart. I went through a 6-month heated political battle 10 years ago at work around gender equality and responsibilities of duty, which still leaves me shaking my head. Basically, I used to run many sales teams across North America. These salespeople lived on the road, either taking 2 to 4 flights a week or driving 80k miles a year if they had a rural territory, driving around to different parts. They took a min of 15k base salary, and earned 5% of everything they sold as commission. Base salary was set by years worked as a professional seller, plus seniority at the firm. Cost of living increase plus 5k bump in base every year you hit plan, or 2.5k bump for not being terrible. Top sales people made 250k a year, learners and entry people made 35 to 50k, mid-pack was about 80 to 120k. They also got to keep all their credit card points, which could add up to 2 family vacations a year with how they were spending on travel and entertainment. One day I got an official letter of complaint by a female saleswoman who complained that her male colleague got extra leads from a trade show and it wasn't fair. The most egregious part is that she was on the lower end of mid-pack even though she had the job for 5 years, and she was complaining about a kid who just started his job and barely made rent money. All of a sudden about half my sales teams who were women starting the same complaint in support of the first person, even though careful analysis showed our lead distribution process was very fair. I had almost a stoppage of work because of this complaint. After a 6-month-long investigation and interviewing every one of my 500 sellers, turns out majority of the time female sellers, all but 2. And those 2 were consistently in the top 5 sellers in the country, consistently left trade show floors earlier to catch flights they booked to get home earlier, never did tear down and packing up equipment and shipping equipment out, a process that could take 2 to 5 hours longer. There was nothing stopping anyone from wanting to help tear down. My sellers set their own schedules and booked their own flights. All of the men said they always seemed to be the de facto tear down people, and they were happy to do it because during this time, other salespeople from the trade show would shoot the and relationships would bloom and new areas of distribution or direct customers would form because it would be the same set of people staying behind an extra half day to pack up. Rinse/repeat over a course of a year or 2 with a trade show every 2 weeks, and those that stayed behind to do cleanup work did in fact showcase higher performance on commission. In a job that is majority commission based and not exactly hard to measure performance, and the activities that supported higher performance, have more meetings, meet more new people, track and follow up thoroughly, we still had people thinking it was a gender discrimination issue. I was a male who worked in childcare for 5 years. I understood the reasoning behind it, but I had to be absolutely dead careful to be impeccable in my dealings with kids and parents, just because anything slightly off about my vibe etc. could spell the end of my career. I had on more than one occasion have a new parent who hadn't dealt with me before refuse to leave their kid at the school with me if I was the only staff on the premises, opting to wait in the car until a female staff member arrived. This wasn't the case with parents who were familiar with me. But new parents often just didn't trust me at all. When I resigned from the school, the other staff said how irreplaceable I was, how much the kids and staff trusted and appreciated me etc. I really think I did a good job. But even so, just being a male meant that I was trusted less from the get-go. I didn't hold it against anyone, but it was a double standard I ran into often. I know a male teacher who often has to comfort a student who is having struggles in class. Every time the student wants to offer him a hug he has to tell them no, they can't hug him. This is sad for many reasons. He has to do this to protect himself, but female teachers likely are free to hug. It sets a precedent in the mind of children that men are not to be hugged, perpetuating the stereotype of men being cold and distant. It perpetuates the idea that men are predators by default. It shows that men are more likely to be accused of doing something than women. If you're a stay-at-home father, or worse, just a stay-at-home spouse as a male, there's a sizable portion of people who are going to think less of you as a man, assume you're a freeloader, etc. While the opposite is true to an extent as well, stay-at-home mothers or housewives are far more socially accepted. People will sing the praises of stay-at-home moms, call it the hardest job in the world, ask if her husband is helping out enough at home, etc. A man will be asked if he's on babysitting duty, will be mocked for playing Mr. Mom, will be ridiculed for staying home while his wife works/having his wife wear the pants, criticized for not providing for his family, etc. I was out of work for a period due to my gym temporarily closing as a result of COVID restrictions, meaning my girlfriend was supporting us. I had worked for the entirety of our 15-year relationship until that point, but that didn't stop people from acting as if I was a deadbeat. When men open up about their feelings, they're often viewed as weaker, less masculine, immature, and too emotional. When women open up about their feelings, they're often viewed as more empowered, more feminine, more mature, and more in touch with their emotions. When men fail, they're often viewed as pathetic and not working hard enough. When women fail, they're often viewed as hard workers staying strong in an unfair world. When men make more money than women, there's controversy about the wage gap. When women make more money than men, those men are viewed as inadequate and lacking ambition. I opened up to my ex about my feelings, including many topics being discussed here. Being or groped, being uncomfortable around children lest I be labeled a pedo, etc. She told me that it was insensitive of me to bring up these topics to her because she was raped as a kid and it was triggering to her. If these things were bothering me, I should talk to a therapist about them. She told me at the beginning of the relationship that she was raped as a child, but wouldn't talk much about it. And she wouldn't go to therapy herself. She said she had done therapy as a teenager and didn't need it anymore. I had been going to therapy for 4 years at the time, and had done a lot of good work. I just wanted to be open to her about how I feel about things in our society. But she told me that I need to be going to therapy 4 times as much as she thought I was actually going. I had been going once every 2 months before meeting her, and was going almost every 2 weeks once we started dating. I never told her about this because my therapy is my business. She just assumed I was going every couple of months. But God forbid I suggest she go to therapy. No. She went a few times as a teenager, she was fixed for good. But I was the problem. Oh, did I mention she was a counseling psychologist? Good times.